Is unpaid work experience even worth my time? That's a question I've thought about often, especially early in my career. Now, outside of journalism, I've done event emceeing, speaking engagements, and I've even dabbled in consulting for content strategy and diversity and inclusion. I've been in situations where folks have asked me to provide these services for free or at a heavily discounted rate, and this can be tricky, right? On one hand, I do think it's important to give back to your community, volunteer if you can, but other times you really should get paid. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my thought process when I'm asked to do unpaid work. For me, it comes down to several important considerations, including the value that I'm providing for the project and the value I'm getting out of the project. But before I even think about all that, I start by asking, can I even really afford to work for free right now? We all have different financial situations at different points in life, and that's totally normal and okay. So if you ask yourself, can I afford to work for free right now? And the answer is no, then I would encourage you to pitch paid internships or freelance projects to organizations that align with your career goals instead. And I think you'd actually be surprised at the number of small businesses or organizations that would be willing to work with you and pay you. So if I'm in a situation where I can maybe afford to work for free, then I'll start by thinking about what's required of me to participate and the value that I'm providing for the project. To give an example, I was once in a situation where an event organizer reached out and asked if I could MC their event. The only problem is they couldn't pay me at my regular rate. This particular job would have required significant travel and preparation. It was quite a long drive outside of Seattle, so it would have required a lot of time for me, as well as my professional skills. I wasn't super comfortable with the amount of time that I would have to spend on this unpaid job, and you'll probably hear me say this a lot on the channel, that you have to be really intentional with your time, because once you've spent it, you can never get it back. The next thing I thought about was what I would have to gain from the opportunity. Even if you're not getting paid, you might still gain experience or exposure. I think that if I had been less experienced, I might have accepted their offer to work for free, but I'm in a different stage of my career now. I've been on camera for about 9 years, and I know that my work has value because I've worked as an on-camera host and event MC, and I've been paid to do it in the past. But I think that if you have zero experience in a skill that's important to you or your career, then working for free could absolutely be beneficial for you. When I first started working for free, I had worked as an on-camera host for a public access TV show, and this was in high school. I was about 16 or 17 at the time. I was really bad, but it ended up being a great experience, and because it was an unpaid gig, there was a lot less pressure. The expectation was that I was there to learn, and if it had been a paid job, it would have been a lot more pressure and it would have been more stressful on me. I think that particular opportunity was also a great way for me to get my mistakes out of the way and to learn from them. And also, it was really the best time for me to be working for free because I was in high school. I still lived with my parents and I didn't have any bills to pay, so that really was the best time to be working without compensation. The other thing that you can gain from an unpaid opportunity is exposure to a new network that will lead to paid opportunities in the future. Maybe you're trying to get a job in a new industry, but you don't have any contacts yet. Or you're starting up a new business and you want to build brand awareness of your company. I think those are all examples of times when working for free might be worth it for you. And the example that I mentioned earlier, I would have been in front of a lot of government officials. So it might have been great exposure to a network of powerful and influential people in the state. However, I used to be a legislative reporter, so I already had exposure and access to that network. In addition to that, as a TV host for Seattle's PBS station and as the founder of Career Survival Guide, I'm already getting access to the networks that I want to have exposure to. And so in this particular situation, I don't think that the exposure would have been worth the time and preparation that would have been required of me. Side note though, I have noticed that the opportunities that do give me the best exposure end up being with organizations that offer to pay me anyway. So that's something to keep in mind. So ultimately, I said no to the volunteer MC gig. I just couldn't justify, spending so much time and preparation on this event when everyone else was getting paid, either as employees of the organization that put on the event or as public officials who are expected to attend these events as part of their jobs. However, if I'm ever invited to an all-volunteer event for a cause that really matters to me, I'm more likely to work for free for that event because everyone is a volunteer. That wasn't the case in this example. I won't say the name of the organization that reached out to me, but I'm almost certain that you've heard of it and that they did have the budget to pay me, they just didn't want to. The other thing is that by saying no to this unpaid opportunity, I was able to say yes to other opportunities. I ended up using that time to work on tasks and projects that could actually move the needle and ended up generating revenue for me. So it's really important to think about that opportunity cost. The last thing I'll share is that even if you decide to pass on an unpaid opportunity, you should still respond with gratitude, because at the end of the day, they reached out to you because they value your talent, your skills, your work ethic, and that's something that's really flattering, and you should let them know that you appreciate their offer. One thing to keep in mind is that the impression that you make now will impact whether they think of you for other opportunities. It's really possible that your contact at this organization might end up working on a different project that does have the budget to pay you for your services. And if you make that good impression now, they're going to be more likely to reach out to you than if you respond in a not very professional tone or if you just ghost them. The other thing to keep in mind is that people change jobs all the time. So your contact at this organization might move to a different company, and if that company has a similar project and does want to pay you, they might think of you too. So it's really important that you make that good first impression and not burn a bridge. I actually interviewed Keita Williams, the founder of Success Bully, an elite accountability practice, and I asked her about how she handles requests to work for exposure, aka for free.
Oh, don't get played with the exposure game either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we do this for exposure. Okay, but what does that exposure look like? Ask for very specific things when people try to pay you in exposure. I'll tell you about my 5 asks. I ask for access to the list.
I love this interview because even if you're not getting compensated for your work, you can still find other creative ways to get value from an unpaid or low budget project. Part of advocating for yourself is knowing when to say no or to ask for more. And that doesn't make you greedy. It just means that you know the value of your work. So make sure to check out that video next. And if you have any questions or if you want to continue this conversation, then find me on Instagram and let's chat in the DMs.